At 7:17 a.m. on June 30th, 1908, something exploded over Siberia with the force of 1,000 Hiroshima bombs. It flattened 80 million trees across 800 square miles. But here's what makes your blood run cold. No crater was ever found. Semyon Semenyov was sitting on his porch 40 miles away when the sky split open. The heat was so intense it felt like his shirt was on fire. The blast threw him from his chair and shattered every window in his village. But Semenov was one of the lucky ones. He survived to tell his story. What happened in the remote Tunguska region that morning defies explanation even today, over a century later. The Podkamennaya Tunguska River winds through some of the most isolated wilderness on Earth. In 1908, this region of central Siberia was home to the Evenk people, indigenous reindeer herders who had lived in harmony with the forest for thousands of years. The nearest major settlement was over 600 miles away. It was the perfect place for something to happen, and for it to remain hidden. That morning started like any other. Hunters tracked elk through the dense taiga. Children played near their families' chum tents. But at exactly 7:17 a.m. local time, the world changed forever. Remember that exact time, because what makes this event so terrifying is how precisely we can track something we still can't explain. Witnesses across hundreds of miles described the same impossible sight. A brilliant fireball, brighter than the sun, streaking across the morning sky from southeast to northwest. Then came the flash. A light so intense it was seen 400 miles away. The sound followed minutes later. A thunderclap that shattered windows in towns 60 miles from the explosion site. But here's where it gets strange. The seismic shock was recorded by monitoring stations across Europe and Asia. Scientists in London detected atmospheric pressure waves circling the globe twice. Yet despite this massive explosion, something was wrong with the evidence. There was no crater, no fragments, no meteorite. What could cause such devastation and leave behind nothing? It would be 19 years before the first scientific expedition reached ground zero. In 1927, Soviet mineralogist Leonid Kulik finally made it to the impact site. What he found was a landscape from a nightmare. Trees lay flattened in a perfect radial pattern, all pointing away from a central point. But at the very center, the trees were still standing, stripped of branches and bark like giant matchsticks. Kulik searched desperately for a crater, for meteorite fragments, for any physical evidence of what had caused this destruction. He found nothing. The pattern was too perfect, too precise. It looked like the work of a massive explosion that had detonated in the air, not on the ground. But what could explode with such force without leaving a trace? The testimonies became more disturbing the closer witnesses were to the blast. Chu Chan, an Evenk elder, was thrown 30 feet by the shockwave and knocked unconscious. When he awoke, the forest around him was gone, replaced by a hellscape of fallen trees and smoldering earth. His brother Chakaren described seeing the forest dance as the shockwave approached, trees bending and snapping like twigs. But the most chilling account came from a trader named Vasily Genkul. He was just 10 miles from the explosion. He described the sky splitting open, a column of fire reaching into the heavens, and a heat so intense that the river began to steam. Then came the sound. Not just an explosion, but something he described as the sky screaming. What they all agreed on was this: whatever happened wasn't natural. For decades, scientists insisted it was a meteor or comet that disintegrated in the atmosphere. Case closed. But in 1973, everything changed. Nuclear physicists studying the blast pattern realized something horrifying. The destruction was identical to the effects of a nuclear airburst. The radial tree fall, the standing dead trees at ground zero, the lack of a crater. It all matched the aftermath of an atomic bomb detonated several miles above the ground. But this was 1908. Nuclear weapons wouldn't be invented for another 37 years. So what exploded over Tunguska with the precise characteristics of nuclear detonation? Some researchers now believe we're looking at evidence of an antimatter explosion, a collision between matter and antimatter that would leave no physical trace, only pure energy. But antimatter doesn't exist naturally on Earth, which raises the question that keeps scientists awake at night. Where did it come from? Today, over 115 years later, the Tunguska Event remains one of science's greatest unsolved mysteries. We know something exploded over Siberia with the force of the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated. We know it flattened 80 million trees in a pattern consistent with an airburst. We know it was detected around the world, but we still don't know what it was. The official explanation remains a disintegrating comet or asteroid, but the evidence doesn't quite fit. No fragments, no crater, no chemical residue, just destruction on a scale that shouldn't be possible from a natural cosmic impact. Some nights, when the wind howls through the Tunguska forest, locals say you can still hear the echo of that morning in 1908. The morning when something from beyond our world paid Earth a visit and left us with more questions than answers. If this kept you up at night, you're not ready for what comes next. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next one drops soon. Subscribe and hit that bell. A new mystery drops every single day.